Hello, my friends. Welcome back to Breaking the Cycle. Today, we are going to be talking about if addicts are narcissists. If you are new here, hello, my name is Tracy. I am a psychotherapist in long-term recovery from addiction. And if you are not new here, thank you for not being new here. Before we start, please take a second and hit that subscribe so you will get notifications for every new video I put out. They're really good videos, so you're not going to want to miss them. You can also find other ways to connect with me below the video, including my Instagram, Facebook, Patreon, and my recovery support services. Now let's get to it. So, are addicts narcissists is a very common question, and understandably so. Addicts do unfortunately tend to show many narcissistic traits. So today we are going to explore and compare the two diagnoses. I have had the blessing/curse of being on both sides of addiction, so I can definitely understand why this question would come up. Addiction is a very selfish disease, and when we are deep in our use, our needs come first. Not being sick comes first. We need that money more than you. And to the loved ones of addicts, that kind of behavior is absolutely infuriating. And we search for answers as to how our loved one could treat us so poorly. Got my green tea here. Green tea has just a tiny bit of caffeine in it, enough to probably keep me going, and a ton of antioxidants since I'm in my 30s now. Now, the term narcissist is a very overused term, and I think a lot of people don't actually know what they're describing when they describe it. There is a narcissistic personality type that exists, and there is also narcissistic personality disorder. What I'm going to be exploring today is narcissistic personality disorder. So I have here with me the DSM, which is a book full of all of the mental health diagnoses. Now, licensed clinical social workers actually have the ability to diagnose and treat mental illnesses. So I found narcissistic personality disorder in this book, and underneath of it is a list of 9 pieces of diagnostic criteria. And the book says that to be diagnosed with narcissistic personality disorder, or NPD, then you must meet 5 or more of these 9 diagnostic criteria. Now, these criteria include a grandiose sense of importance, as in, this person feels superior to everyone else around them. They are also preoccupied with fantasies of success or power. They believe that they are special or unique more so than anyone else in this room. They require constant and excessive admiration from others, which could look like fishing for compliments and things like that. Number 5 has a sense of entitlement, which means an unrealistic expectation of how they should be treated or what they may deserve physically or financially. Number 6 is interpersonally exploitative, takes advantage of others to get what they need. Number 7, lacks empathy. Number 8, often envious of others or feels that others are envious of them. And 9, shows arrogant and haughty behaviors and attitudes. So out of those 9 symptoms, you can probably guess which ones apply to addiction. Definitely some of these traits are present in an addict. For example, the lack of empathy is often there with those in active addiction. They will take from you and not seem to care. The sense of entitlement is kind of also there. Like, I need this money more than you do. My needs are more important than yours. As well as that exploitativeness, taking advantage of others to get what they need. So I can 100% see why this is such a thin line to people. There are a lot of very similar behaviors. But one thing to note is that those with NPD are very preoccupied with that power, with that arrogance. And typically, those in active addiction are not walking around with huge egos. I know when I was in active addiction, my self-esteem was at an all-time low. In fact, it tends to be the opposite in that they are struggling with their self-esteem. Another thing to note is that the symptoms of NPD begin in adolescence. So you have to look at the person that you are considering and ask yourself if these behaviors began early on in their life or if they only presented after their addiction began. So based on my count, an addict meets 3 out of the 9 diagnostic criteria for narcissistic personality disorder, and that was entitlement, lack of empathy, and exploitative behaviors. They do not, however, tend to have a grandiose sense of self-importance, believe that everyone else is jealous of them, or typically show arrogant behaviors. Typically, an addict will only start to display this type of exploitative behavior after their addiction begins. It's not typically something that is present in their early adolescence. So that is something else to consider, is if these behaviors go away at all once their addiction is not there. So when it comes down to it, in my opinion, as both an addict and a therapist, I have to say that no, addicts are not narcissists. I have to say that substance use disorder and narcissistic personality disorder are 2 very different diagnoses, although they do definitely intermingle when it comes to the behaviors. However, something to note is that that does not mean that the addict in question does not also have narcissistic personality disorder. In fact, I think it's very common for those with NPD to be in the substance abuse population. So while we cannot generalize that all addicts are narcissists, it is highly possible that someone can be an addict and a narcissist. If you are struggling with a loved one in addiction, I do offer family consultations to help you process that situation. You can find information for that down below the video. Or if you or someone you know is struggling with narcissistic personality disorder, I highly recommend you check in with a medical professional or a therapist to help you get to a better place in your mindset or in your relationship. What do you think? Was this information surprising to you, or is that kind of what you thought to begin with? I really appreciate you guys watching and being here. I hope that this was helpful to you. Don't forget to hit that subscribe so you can be notified when my next video comes out. They do come out weekly, and I will see you in my next one.